Warning, the following podcast has been classified as insanely lucrative. Listener discretion is advised.
You can very quickly and easily get it removed. It's one of the things that Amazon makes very easy to actually maintain a very high positive rating. So here's what you do.
Your attention, please. Listening to the AM/PM podcast may cause recurring revenue streams and unfair advantages over your competitors. Other side effects may include fatter wallets, fired bosses, and longer vacations. Listen at your own risk. Here's your host, seven-figure entrepreneur and online marketing madman, Manny Coates. Manny Coates.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AM/PM podcast. My name is Manny Coates, and I will be your host, and this is the show where we discuss how to generate recurring revenue streams that come in 24 hours per day during the AM and the PM, hence the name of the show. As a matter of fact, right after this podcast, I will be heading to the gym with my brother, and guess what, guys? I'll be making money while pumping iron. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. So today I want to talk about seller feedback. I get questions that are left about sellers getting negative feedback and not knowing what to do. So first of all, we all get bad seller feedback ratings from time to time. It's just part of the game. If you do enough sales, you deal with enough customers, it's going to happen. I've had it. I've had people give me 1-star seller feedback before I even had a chance to communicate with them. They don't even give me an opportunity. They'll just say, hey, 1 star, the product didn't get here when I expected it to get here. Or the product came crushed. The UPS box was crushed and the product inside was damaged. There's some reason that the customer's upset enough to rate it 1 star and then post it immediately without even trying to contact me. And I have a very good autoresponder system in place where I reach out to the person right away so they have an opportunity to respond. But with seller feedback, you can get all of these things removed. And I have gotten them all removed. Let's talk about that. Seller feedback is super critical to your account. If you get negative feedback, it affects everything. You won't show up for pay-per-click listings as often as you might. You might not show up in the search results as well as you would normally show up if you have good feedback. It just has a trickling effect throughout your whole account. So you want to make sure that your seller feedback rating is perfect or as close to perfect as possible. And there are a few things that you can do to make sure that you always have a very positive seller feedback rating. Okay. Now, just to be clear, we're not talking about product reviews. Okay. That's a whole separate thing. We're talking about seller feedback. Now, first thing, you should be requesting seller feedback from all of your customers. Every time they buy, you should have some kind of auto response system that is sending out emails to the customer. And I've done a whole podcast on a series of this, but you want to make sure that you are soliciting that feedback. Okay. The next thing, if somebody does leave you negative feedback, you can very quickly and easily get it removed. It's one of the things that Amazon makes very easy to actually maintain a very high positive rating. So here's what you do. If you do receive a negative one, instead of responding to the customer, don't even bother with that. Just go to your Seller Central account and you're going to go to your feedback section, okay? And you're going to grab the order ID of the person that left you the negative feedback. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to go and click on the help button, like you're going to be contacting seller support, and you're going to see the selling on Amazon button. You have 2 options, right? Selling on Amazon or sponsored products. Click on selling on Amazon, and then the very first option is customers and orders. You click that, you're going to be able to paste in the order ID. And when you paste in the order ID and go to the next page, it will actually show you the person who actually ordered. One of the buttons, it should be the top button, is customer feedback removal request. You always want to click that, okay? 9 times out of 10, after you do that and you submit it through, it's automatically going to get removed. They have some kind of an algorithm in there which removes the feedback. So 9 times out of 10. On the chance that it doesn't automatically remove it, you have a lot of leeway here. So think about this. Customer feedback is only supposed to be talking about you as a seller, the customer service that you provided. It has nothing to do with how quickly the product was shipped out, if there was a delay, if it got lost, anything related to the handling or shipping of the product. That is not seller feedback, okay? So if somebody mentions something like that in the seller feedback, you can request to have it removed. Just tell Amazon, look, this has to do with the shipping of the product, not about me. The next thing is if they mention anything about the product within that feedback, like they say, oh, the product came damaged, or it wasn't what I expected, or it didn't come as advertised, or whatever, anything at all related to the product, that's grounds for getting it removed. So in the little message that you would write, if it doesn't automatically get removed, you'd write the message saying, this is about my product, not about me, please remove. Very simple. On the off chance that it is a very specific seller feedback saying this seller was rude to me or something like that, then you'd probably have some issues. I've never had that. I'm always very nice to the customers. We have a very specific way of handling customers, the interaction between ourselves and the customers. So that's never happened. I just want to bring it up so that you know how to handle it. But anyways, by doing it this way, you'll never have a negative feedback issue. Your account will be in good standing, and you'll be fine. One other thing that you might see is when somebody actually leaves a positive seller feedback, but it's actually not officially seller feedback, it's a product review. They just happen to leave the product review as your seller feedback. This has happened to me. There's not really much you can do. You don't really want to remove it since it's positive seller feedback, but you can't get it transferred. People have asked, well, can I just get it transferred? Can I have an Amazon rep transfer it over to my reviews? The answer is no, you cannot do that. If it's good, just leave it. It helps for your seller feedback, even if it's about your product review. But if it's a negative product review on your seller feedback, absolutely remove it. You want to get rid of all the bad, especially if it's easy to do. Now, if you get a negative product review, that's a whole different story. There's no automated way to make that happen very easily. So discussion for a different time. We're talking about seller feedback right now. Another point that I want to make about seller feedback, and this is something I cannot verify personally, but I've heard this is actually the case, is that if you don't maintain your seller feedback and you are selling products that have other sellers also selling them, right? There's multiple sellers. You're competing for that buy box. In that case, if you have everything else being equal with somebody else, but they have a better seller feedback rating than you, they'll actually get that buy box versus you. If you don't have your own private label product where you're the only seller and you are selling along with other sellers, seller feedback is even more critical, more important. I hope that makes sense. And finally, we're going to end this podcast episode with one last question, which was, can I request seller feedback from my customers? So can you reach out to them and say, hey, will you leave me some seller feedback? The answer is yes. You're allowed to do that. Amazon allows this, but they do not allow you to request feedback from the person in exchange for any kind of incentivization. Okay, so you can't offer them a discounted product or coupon code or anything else. All right, guys, that's all I have for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you are on iTunes, please do leave me a review. That would be cool. I guess if you felt this podcast was anything less than a 5-star podcast, then please definitely let me know. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the AM/PM podcast hosted by Manny Coates. For more information, insider tools, and to get the resources mentioned in this episode, visit ampmpodcast.com.